Поскольку мы кирпич болгаркой не режем, поэтому мы решили заполнить тогда, когда мы подойдем.
Hey everybody, it's Stove Talk with Matt. This is really cool. This relates to the last video that I put out because this is an actual workshop somewhere in Russia of them building almost the exact same stove as the one we covered in the last video, but this is like a smaller or a mini version. The channels are a little bit thinner. It's easier to build, and we'll talk about the differences, but this is the actual building of the stove I covered in the last video, but again, a smaller version. Here they actually have a model I'll show you. They put together with wood. This is a workshop, so students or people that have never even probably laid a brick before, a stove building workshop. The outcome is very sloppy and rudimentary compared to when you watch these Russian stove makers build. I mean, it's incredible. So these people are, but that's what I'm saying. You know, that's what's so great about this stove. Anybody can do it. And before we get into it, this is the top bell. Is supposed to be placed on top of this bottom bell. The wood is loaded in here. I'll start playing the video in a moment. Remember, this is a workshop, so they didn't want to put these students up on scaffolding and up in ladders. They just built the top bell next to it, and they're going to just break it down. I'm sure they just use sand and some clay, no cement or mortar, and it'll just, you know, they'll just break it down when the workshop's done. It's all in Russian, so I turned it off. And so this model here. Let's take a look at the model first. Flashing back to the other video now. It's part 1 and part 2. I'll leave both in the description. So this is very similar to the larger Russian stove covered in my last video. And I'll tell you what the difference is. And here's the cutaway model, which is really helpful. They made it with little blocks of wood, not brick. The wood is loaded in here. There would be a grate, an iron grate that goes across here that's not shown. This is the ash door or the air door. The Russians call it the blower door. The air comes in here. When the door is open, it comes up through the grate that holds the wood. Wood burns here, comes over the top, down, underneath, all the way up to the top, and then cascades down these two channels, and then goes up the chimney. And then this would, a few more brick layers would connect to a 6-inch single wall or double wall stovepipe that would go out through the roof. So what the difference is between this stove and the last stove are very minor. The basic design is the same, with the flames and gases flowing out the back of the firebox, down and up. The other stove in my last video, remember, had a brick missing here. And that was for to establish initial draft. The brick missing allowed some hot gases to immediately turn left and go out. So the idea being there, if you're not using the stove very often and you have to continuously have to prime it, this is an opening here, but you'd have an iron clean out door here. You'd have to, if you only used it once a week, many people would have to keep priming it. You have to put some sticks and some newspaper here, get this part all warm and hot, prime it before you would light this part up. You just have to know your chimney, your house, your setup. In many cases, if somebody builds this here, especially without this brick missing, and you don't prime it first, you just light up your wood in here, it'll just come right out and smoke your whole house up. Eventually, it may take 5 minutes for it, to find its way out instead of wanting to pour out through the door. It's too much of a risk. It'll smoke your whole house up. So I do like what they did in the last video, keeping that brick open. Of course, you lose 8%, 10% efficiency because a lot of hot gases are just going to go right through the opening and right out. But it really depends on how often it's being used. If it's lit twice a day for 2 months in a row like it's supposed to, then it's much better to keep this solid and not have the opening and force all the gases to the top. And then if you're gonna light it twice a day, that means all the bricks continuously stay warm for a month or 2 or 3 months at a time. And you only have to prime it one time for the winter. If you're gonna light it, just cold snaps, if you live in New Jersey or something, and you have a cold snap You're going to light it for 4 days in January and then 2 days in February, and you're going to light it on and off. It's probably better to have that brick here missing, because you have a chance at least of having it work initially without it having it, to prime it and having to continuously open this door and shove in a few sticks and some newspaper to get this part warm. And again, if you keep it warm, the draft is always kind of flowing. If you burn it twice a day for 2 months straight, the bricks stay warm, everything stays hot. You won't have to, almost always, in most situations, will not have to keep priming. Priming is only when it goes completely cold. So this is like a mini version. Again, remember, guys, one thing I don't like about this, if you could count how high is the firebox, right? Here's the grate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That to me is not high enough of a firebox. A high firebox, I always go for no smoke. I don't like to smoke my neighbors out. I think it's offensive when these people down the way over here, they don't know how to burn their fireplace. You can tell when they're burning it's a smokes everybody out. It's like, oh, they're burning their fireplace again, and they don't have the right setup. It's just, I don't know. It's my pet peeve. I forget, environmental issues, that doesn't, whatever. That's nice if you can go smoke free, but that's not what I'm talking about, just being kind to your neighbors. You have a short firebox like this, it creates much, much more smoke. You simply don't have room for complete combustion. If that's a big deal for you, in any setup, in any stove, high firebox with the flames lapping up, with a lot of energy, a lot of wood, burns up the smoke. And you get in many cases, you get a no smoke or a 95% smoke-free situation. I'm telling you right now, this is going to create smoke. Here's the grate across here, not enough room. If you burn it hot, you put a bunch of logs in here, it helps. And you're going to get kind of like a rocket stove. You're going to get some smoke burning up down in this chamber here. And again, I don't like stoves with just one. With just one brick opening, one brick opening, one brick opening. But this does make sense because the whole thing, other than these two descending channels, the whole thing is just really other than here you have a 2 brick gap. But then here is a 1 brick opening to the chimney. So, the rocket stove people they were told many years ago that it has to be the exact same dimensions. The wood going into the J has to be the exact same. It really, that is a good rule for a J rocket stove, but it doesn't, a lot of stoves and even rocket stoves don't have to be the same dimensions. So if I was building this, I don't want to have to prime it constantly. I can't stand doing that. I have to do it on my ironwood stove. I'd give up a little efficiency for the ability just to light the thing and have it work. To ability to light this thing and just have it work and draft, this would need to be in the center of a house. Somebody in a prior comment said, can I put one of these in the basement? It really should be on the floor where everybody lives. Well, hopefully I'll remember to talk about that later, not in the basement, because it just doesn't throw enough heat. You can touch this when it's, you can touch it. It's not that hot. But the idea, if you get 800 bricks all radiating out at 140 degrees, that's a huge amount of radiant heat. No one part gets that hot. I don't think a stove like this is going to heat your whole house from the basement. Be nice, it'll put some vents in, but it's just not going to do the job unless it should be on at the living area. So to me, I like it. I want something I can just light and have it work. Have it just draft properly. Again, if you light it twice a day for 6 weeks straight with no time off, it'll always draft properly. I'm talking about lighting it cold or whatever. So what I would do, if this was me, I have other heat in the house. I have an oil burner, and oil deliveries and things like that. It's just a supplement. I would remove a brick here and let the gases escape more quickly over this hump. And I don't like one brick. I'd remove a brick here. 2 brick opening, just let the gases more easily get to the top. I would consider, because I don't like to have to prime it, keeping that brick open. You're still going to have a ton of gases flowing up fast they're not all going to turn left and go out. Many are going to go up here and then eventually cascade after, not what we talked about, not this stratification where all the hot gases will stay up there for a few minutes and hang out and smoke a cigarette. No, they might stay up there for a half a second longer. It's still something, collect at the top a bit for a second, it's still, this stove's small enough where your bell isn't big enough. It's still operating like a channel stove. And then cascade down, 2-brick opening here, and then up and out. I would definitely make the firebox much, I'd go 4 rows higher. I just like flames lapping up high that eats up all the smoke, which then again, it pushes your whole stove much higher, because then the second bell has to start 4 levels higher. And if you're going to go higher on the firebox, then you want definitely a 2-brick opening. Let it come over quickly, then 2-brick opening to get up. I like the design of the one we just looked at was wider too. This is not a lot of room for a firebox. Remember, the one we just looked at had, if you count what's in the middle, not the chimney and not the wall, it had 3 of these. It had 1 with the brick opening, 2, 3, and then the chimney. So it was wider, longer by a whole channel. It's too narrow of a firebox. It's, you'd have to have, short pieces. And here, once we start looking at, we'll start in, I know I'm being long-winded, we'll start looking at the construction of it now, I guess, and I'll come back to this. So the base, very simple. Any stove, like we talked about in the last video, that's just 2 bricks wide, anybody can do it. Very, very simple. And let me just use the arrows. And after, they filling in their cement, you could just actually use, like, if you're careful, hold the bricks. Just trowel it in with, trowel your cement into your base. Your base is very important. Outline it with pencil. Very, very important. It has to be perfect, because everything builds off the base. Make sure when you put in your cement, you don't move these bricks. It was hard for me to do my base on my big Russian stove. I outlined it. I think I ended up literally buttering 1 brick at a time, or almost laying it like tile, like putting the mortar on the cement floor and just troweling it with a grid trowel for tile. You do it like this and fill in the gaps like they do. You have to be very careful you're not moving the bricks around. But one thing you can do when you're building your base is just make sure your mortar mix is soupier. You're going to have thousands of pounds on top of it. It doesn't even really need any mortar. With 1,000 pounds on top, it's not going anywhere. So, to get your mortar down the cracks, you just kind of slop it on top and just kind of hit the middle with your trowel and have it fall down. Make your mortar mix very, very soupy, and and use more cement. There's no heat down here. Cement's no problem. Use more cement and lime so it hardens up. Real soupy, almost like these dumb videos on YouTube that talk about dry. What is it? Dry pour. You pour the cement and you just hose it on. It's total horseshit. It won't hold up if you hose your cement. They're called dry. You could almost do that with this though, but harden up a little bit. Anyway, do anything you can so it doesn't move. And they did a real nice job with the base here. You can see it's solid as a rock. Then, some people use string to make sure everything's level. I just eye it up. Once you have a good base, just make sure everything is level coming up. And again, this is a workshop. The people laying the mortar here really, they're not experts. Let me just play it, and I'll skip forward as it's playing. We'll do it like this. And I like much smaller joints too. Smaller the better. With these stoves, because it's too hard to lay. If your mortar joints are bigger, you have to check your level on each brick, each direction, up and down, left and right, level, up and down, tap, 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 up and down. It just takes forever. I like, smaller joints you can kind of hammer down, move a little bit more quickly. If you get screwed up and it's kind of off center, or you can make up for, you can correct the mistake with a larger joint on the next row. So let me skip ahead. Guess we're up top. There is where he's going to put the first door in. Well, it's now down. Now it's down towards us. That is the ash door there. There's bricks in it just to hold up those two bricks. Just he hasn't mortared the center of those two bricks yet. But that square is the ash door or the air door. And then you can see these people never never laid a brick before. When I first started, I was worse than that. And it's better to see how slowly they're working. It's better to it's if you can get, well, what I want to say here is this brick here. We'll get into. Do you wet the brick? Do you not wet the brick? Do you dunk the brick in water? Do you spray it with a spray bottle? This brick that they have, a smooth brick, usually isn't very porous. If you put it in a bucket of water, you won't get bubbles. So you can make you don't see them spraying here or wetting with a smooth brick that's not porous. You don't have to. It won't absorb the idea with a porous brick is it just immediately starts absorbing the water out of your mortar, and it screws up your mortar strength. You won't see them spraying here, but that's okay. If you use fire brick, very porous. You need to dunk it into a bucket. If you use most pavers you buy in the U.S., 4x8, you have to dunk it in a bucket. You'll see bubbles. You have to wet it first. At the very minimum, spray the heck out of it with a spray bottle, and use mortar that's a little bit wetter. It's going to pull some moisture out of the mortar. And all they have built here is the blower door. Yeah, these people, this is all new to them. They're better than I was the first time. That's the back of the stove. Skipping ahead very, very quickly here. Okay, again, all they have built is the ash door, the blower door, and they're using red brick. They're not using any fire brick. There's no room in this small stove to make a fire brick, firebox and fire brick, and then the rest in red. They're using all red. And I have a video a few months back on when you can use red brick versus fire brick. If you introduce the temperature slowly, the red brick stove will last. You can get it to last 10 or 15 years. And this is so easy. I mean, literally, if it starts to crumble after 7 or 8 years, you just build another one in 2 days. It's not, well, it takes a little bit longer to get the materials, but it's so easy. You can just kind of build another one. It might not last more than 10 years, but, and the red brick can be repaired if it's cracked. So that is another option. All right, let me skip ahead. Okay, at this point, it's just that's the ash door, and that square in the front is where the grate would be laid for the wood, and the firebox is going to be the next few rows up. It is not necessary to put, if your firebox is, let's say you decided to make this a whole brick longer. What's nice about this stove is you can decide to make it almost as long as you want. Well, almost. If you want to make it much larger, just go 2 bricks longer. You have a much longer firebox. It'll be harder to establish initial draft if it's longer, but it's not really that big of a deal. What I want to say is though your grate where the wood goes and the air comes from underneath the grate like a coal stove does not need to be the entire length of the firebox. To me, I like to err on, if you're going to let the air come up, let it come up. I like bigger, longer grates, but if it doesn't have to be, and always err with the grate should be closer to the front. So the firebox might be 2 or 3 bricks longer. You could get 20 to 22 inch pieces of wood if you make this longer. The grate is in the front. The air will come up, and then especially in a stove that draws to the back before it goes up, it doesn't have to be the entire length of the firebox. It just has to be more towards the front, never towards the back. Then your wood in the front won't burn if it's towards the back. Again, it's just this. This stove is just 2 bricks across. You could make this stove in the U.S. with 4x8 pavers. Brick yards have pavers. They're exactly 4x8. Two across is the same exact as 1 over. The paver is symmetrical. A red brick or a regular brick is not symmetrical. It becomes a nightmare for cuts. You need a symmetrical brick to do a stove like this quick and easy. You could use fire brick that are perfectly symmetrical. two next to each other is the same as one on top. Exactly. Regular brick does not do this. It really bothered me the first time I figured this out. Like, you got to be kidding me. Two over is not the same as one on top. Okay, let me go back. Now, pavers do, but check them. Don't go buying 400, 500, 600 bricks. Lay two down, like the letter H, but smushed together, and then put one on top. And it should be exact each way, 4 by 8. Other than that, you need a huge wet saw and you make 1,000 cuts. Okay, that's the start of that back section. Remember, the smoke's going to go up to the top of the firebox, be pulled down, and then through a back channel to the upper bell. I forget I have something I can show you here. This is open here because this will be a clean out door for the back. The smoke will come up, down, and over the years, or a bunch of ash will collect down here. You need a lot of clean out doors with these masonry stoves and Russian stoves. If I just click it, it'll stop, right? Yeah, we'll just do it like that. Okay, well, might as well take a look. Go back, take a look at this. Their little model. Again, remember that. Don't forget the grate across here. Make the firebox higher if you want no smoke. Down here, up, down, and then it will. This second level is 1 brick higher than this first level. If you do 3 cascades, then it gets higher. You basically start. The final cascade is 1 brick, and then you go one less. Depending on how. You can make these things massive. You could do 4 cascades down. I mean, that's there's so many options on a stove like this. Okay. Okay, that's again is just the. There's no. I don't think they ever put an iron grate or a metal grate in here for their little workshop. Again, all red brick, no fire brick. There's no room to build a fire brick box here. Again, this is the fireboxes here. This is the building up that that wall. That's gonna and remember in the much bigger stove that was in the last video, this was the double wall. Here they're just doing a single wall here, and that works fine. They don't have the space to do anything else. The back, remember, this is going to be a clean out door. Okay, I'll go a little bit faster. Okay. Well, this is interesting. They're lining because they're not using a. I didn't expect this. What the heck? Oh, wait a second. Is that the? I don't know. Maybe they're starting to construct the upper bell. I think here. They're jumping ahead. We'll see. Let me go forward. Because remember, they construct them next to each other when they should be on top of each other. Just because of the workshop, they didn't want to get up on ladders. Oh, there we go. Let's go back. Okay. Yeah, this video, this is the number one, sticks more with the bottom section. The other one's more in the top section. That was the upper bell. I see. Okay. Again, it's all in Russian, guys. I'm probably telling you what's going on. And okay, this is interesting to show you. This masonry work is shit. But remember, here's the firebox, and they're just allowing 1 brick underneath. So it goes up, it'll go down, then it'll go, my arrow, imagine my arrow going under these bricks and then up. So at this level, is it just, maybe they are allowing a 2 brick opening. I don't know, but you simply allow the gap, and then this wall will start to be built up. I don't know. Sorry, it's not making much sense. I know. It's hard to talk through this stuff at times. I'm going to skip ahead. All right. There you go. See this? There's a brick here. That's just holding this up while it the mortar sets up. Or let's talk about mortar. For this test, they're just using clay and sand so they can break it down for the workshop. If I was building this permanently, I like 3 parts sand to 1 part clay, fire clay, and I like 1 part lime. If you don't like 1 part lime, I like then a half part type S cement. Yeah, you're not supposed to use cement in high heat, but cement is only less than 10% of the mix. I personally don't think there's any problem. I like it. It brings everything together hard much more quickly. It takes forever for just sand and clay to set up. Everything slides around for days. Not for days, but it's never that strong. So here, this brick's just holding this up. This will be removed. All right, and that's the back portion. Yep. Again, that stuff's all just to prop up the bricks. I mean, that's really, if you use 3 parts sand, 1 part clay to like 1 part type S or 1 part lime, you don't need to prop. You don't need to prop anything up if you're not used to laying bricks. These bricks are like a little bit odd, or they're not perfectly square. If you smush your bricks together and use mortar, and then you're going to go on top here. You're going to go right on top, which is going to hold everything once you go on top. So I don't know. It's not necessary. If you use a little bit of lime and a little bit of cement, you just hold it for 20 seconds. It'll hold, especially if you smush them together here. It's going to hold it's going to hold without any mortar. I don't know what this horse shit's for, but anyway, I guess they're teaching them how to do everything like exactly perfectly because it's a workshop. And this is still remember the model. They're still making the bottom section, but it's so simple. That's so great about the stoves. Here's your firebox, and over, under, up. Just that's it. I mean, just anybody can do it. It's a great design that's proven for 200 years, and it's very similar to a Dutch oven, but I'll tell you if I remember what the differences are. And tap it with a rubber hammer. Don't tap it with a real hammer, but whatever. It's not that big of a deal. It's not a big deal. You can tap it even with the wooden part at the bottom of your hammer. He's all proud of himself. That ain't shit, dude. That ain't shit. See that's just, he's got bricks to hold it up. All right, let's go forward. And I would still, even with smooth bricks, I still would, they're not, it's just the workshop, so why spray? They're going to break it down in an hour, but just even for the smooth brick that's not porous, get a mister, mist, a little bit of water. You want to use a little bit. It creates more like a glue. Okay, look at that ugly ass workmanship. That ain't shit. I should see my piece of shit the first time I did it. Okay, there we go. Back to the model. It's good to up, over, up, all the way up, cascade down, not a channel. So if you made this one brick, if you made it one brick longer, you could put another one of these in. You could make something that channels up, down, forces everything up, down, up. If I did that correctly, you'd turn a bell stove into a channel stove simply by bringing the bricks all the way to the bottom, not allowing. This is more of like a cascade. And again, this is tried and true in Russia for a long time. All the hot gases are not immediately going to fall down here and go out, or they're not all going to go up top here. You get some coming down as long as you do it like they do it. Each of your cascade rows is 1 brick higher. And again, one of the reasons for this, you could leave it open, just make a bell, but you want mass. You want each at least in Russia, they're using smaller bricks for this workshop. But some of their real stove bricks are close to 10 inches, and they're close to 10 pounds each. So if this was 10 bricks, that's 100 pounds of mass. So just adding mass is a reason to do this versus having a completely open bell. And for small stoves, I like channels, although it's harder to establish initial draft. If you made it longer, go up, down, up, down, up. Anyway, sorry, I'm probably not following me. All right. There's so many things to talk about. Let me just stick to the topic here instead of being all over the place. Sorry, guys. So still the bottom section. And, oh, this is, oh, God, it's just made during the COVID years. Right? Oh, boy. Don't cough on me, buddy. Okay. Again, this is that opening here is where you'd lay your iron grate and use an angle grinder to make a lip the size of your grate. You just go down about a 1/2 inch. I don't think you ever see the grate in this stove. Again, this is that back channel. The gases are going to come up here into the top bell, and this is all going to become a ceiling. You'll see, and so the what allows the gases to go from this bottom bell into the top is just going to be a 1 brick opening, which is fine if you're using, even if you have 4x8 pavers. You don't want to be smaller than that, but that's fine. That's plenty of space for a stove like this. And because again it's just 2 bricks across, you don't need any angle irons, you don't need any lintels, any metal going across to hold anything. It's all going to support itself, which makes it really easy to build. This is one of the things I wanted to show you. This is a really good way to cap off the top of your stove for strength, or to cap off, in this case, to cap off the bottom bell. It's just they didn't cut the bricks in half. It looks like 3/4 of a brick. It's a real rough cut with a chisel. You score with a chisel, bang. It doesn't have to look nice. What they're doing here is they're going to make this a ceiling. Let me show you. Let me go ahead and I'll show you what it ends up with, then I'll come back. All right, come on now. There you go. It ends this is not the top of the stove. This is just the top of the bottom section, the first bell. So it's still 2 bricks across, but they just put a full brick in the middle. And what supports this full brick going across in the middle is what's just beneath it is a really good technique where you use a 1/2 a brick or 3/4 of a brick, just rough, and just supports. This is the back channel where the gases will come up into the upper bell. And then with these supports, then your next level is, again, your bricks will go around the outside, and they're just going to run just like wooden joists in your house. The bricks are going to go across. It's a great technique. You break the bottom section to hold the top. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, if you just, instead of doing it, you could just have instead of these bricks facing this direction, you could have them facing each other. And it's still going to be just fine, because all the weight's going to keep going up on the outside. It's going to hold everything in place. It's really not that big of a deal. I like what they did here. You don't have to do it that way. So let me go over. I know this is taking forever. Go over to here's where they build the. Here I guess they're finishing up the top bell. The same, or I don't know. Let's see where we are here. If you see what he's doing there, just pushing the mortar in with the trowel. I mean, you could, if it doesn't, you could clean it up later, like even a grout float. Push it with if your mortar is liquid, you can just push it in with a grout float. I've done that before. Let's see. No, yeah, they're skipping all over the place here. They're building the top. Okay, the top bell is what they're building here, even though it's on the ground. Remember, this is going to sit on top of the part we just looked at. So gases will come up this back end, and then they'll cascade down these 2 channels. This will be the chimney channel out. That'll connect up to the 6-inch stovepipe. That'll go out through the roof. If you go through the roof, you're supposed to use double wall or triple wall stovepipe. Let me go real quick here. All right, skip ahead. Again, remember this part goes on top, and that looks a little bit better. Per the model, this wall or blocker will be it'll end up being 1 brick higher than this one. I'll leave a link, guys. I'm just gonna have to finish this up. There you go. See, one brick higher, and then this is going to go all the way to the top of the ceiling because the gases have to want to be trapped here and then drawn low up and then out. What you sponging it off for? You're gonna break the damn thing down in an hour. Your best girl ain't gonna see it. What are you sponging it off anyway? Yeah, teach him right. And they did the same thing. The broken bricks for a half or 3/4. I like that. It just adds a little bit more strength. And most of the Russians, the top of the stove, they usually do 2 rows of bricks, which makes, I don't know, for a mini stove like this, I might not do that, but just to ensure you don't want any smoke or gases or carbon monoxide coming out. And let's see. What is these bricks sticking out? I don't know why they're sticking out, but guys, this is so long. I'm not sure we're gonna figure that out. Anyway, all right. What's that one part I want to find? What I saw where they were. I don't know. That could have been a picture they showed from another workshop. I don't know. It didn't make sense. I thought we'd come to it, but I don't think we need to look at it. All right, guys. This is basically the construction of the last stove we looked at. This is more of a mini version. It's simple, and you modest. If you do it, let me just finish with this. If you use all red brick, test your brick. I tested my brick by just putting it in my wood stove, just burning it at 1,000 degrees in the wood stove. And I put 3 pavers in. I called the company and they're like, well, we fire these to 1,800 degrees. So, the heat, that red brick is a clay or shale red brick has no issue with the heat for wood burning. Coal is hot. That's another issue. But it doesn't like to be heated up quickly and cooled down quickly. That's the thing with red brick. 1,000 degrees is not the issue. It has to come to temperature slowly and has to cool down slowly. It doesn't like to go up and down quickly. I've had red bricks crack or pavers crack. I use pavers because they're 4x8 and symmetrical. But the test was I fired it up outside. I was doing something like in my backyard or in the driveway. Fired it up to 1,000 degrees. It was 20 degrees outside, and then just let it all go out, and it went back down to 18 degrees, and a couple of them cracked. But and if you were using this in your house, it's your house is already 60 something degrees, so it's already warmer. If you add sticks slowly, keep it warm, burn it every day, you're not having these huge temperature swings. Then sometimes some of the Russians will say, well, in the old days, some of these stoves last 30, 40 years. It was all red brick. They didn't have no fire brick out in Siberia. If you heat it up slowly, you can get away with red brick only. For this mini version, either use all pavers or all fire brick because you need it all to fit together symmetrically. Not regular brick. They don't go together symmetrically. Thanks for listening.